Hi, I'm Rabbi Dan Ain of Congregation Beth Sholom, and this is your take-home Torah for Friday, March 5th. The Torah portion is Ki Tisa. And before we start, I just want to say Kol HaKavod, Mazal Tov to all of you who have participated in our take-home Torah. I have enjoyed very much all of the different interpretations and the interesting ways that many of you have utilized this format to share and to spread Torah. We definitely believe in Shivim Panim LaTorah. There are 70 faces, 70 sides to the Torah. And Rabbi Russell pointed out to me recently, we're about to get to almost a year's worth of take-home Torahs, which have really been curated by all of you. So if you haven't had an opportunity to share your word of Torah, I invite you to sign up for a take-home Torah and be included in this ongoing series of interpretations. So there's a lot in this week's Torah portion. It's much too much, I think, to do full justice to in a little snippet. So I want to, first of all, encourage you to come every Thursday morning. Not only do you get a chance to hear the Torah at our minyan, but you get, afterwards, I lead a Torah discussion in which we attempt to go through as much of the Torah portion as possible and have all of the different side conversations that might happen to really get to some of those 70 faces. In this week's Torah portion, there's a lot because Ki Tisa has within it one of the most consequential, monumental stories is the story of the golden calf and the sin of the Israelites. And then because it also is Shabbat Parah, this Shabbat, which is the Sabbath of the cow. So it is the cow Sabbath, which is traditionally the Shabbat that comes after Purim, before the new month of Nisan. And it's a reminder that we're moving from Purim into Passover. So we need to get ready and prepare ourselves to be able to bring the Passover offering, which might involve, if we traditionally back in the time of the temple, if we've committed a sin or defiled ourselves in any way, we could achieve a purification through the ashes of a red cow. So it's really interesting juxtaposition of these two concepts between this gold cow, which is the basis of one of the worst sins of our people, and this red cow, which serves as the basis of purification for some defilement or some sin. And so I wanted to take a brief look at the building of the golden calf so that maybe we can have a better understanding of what is being communicated here in this Torah portion. So let's take a look here. And Moses is up on Mount Sinai. He is taking a long time to come down. And it says here, chapter 32, when the people saw that Moses was so long in coming down, they gathered against Aaron, Moses' brother, and said to him, "Come, make us a god who shall go before us, because that man Moses, who brought us out of the land of Egypt, we don't know what happened to him. It's just taking a long time, and they just got nervous in his absence." So Aaron says to them, "Take off the gold rings that are on the ears of your wives, your sons, and your daughters, and bring them to me." Now all of the people took off the gold rings that were in their ears, brought them to Aaron. And then he took from them and cast it in mold and made a molten calf. And they exclaimed, "This is your God, O Israel, who brought you out of the land of Egypt." Then we have this interesting phrase here, this interesting line here that I just want to pause on and have be the center of my take-home Torah today. It says, "Vayar Aharon v'yiven mizbeach lefanav." Okay, when Aaron saw this, he built an altar before it. Vayikra Aharon vayomer chag ladonai machar, and announced, "Tomorrow shall be a festival of the Lord." Okay, so when he saw this, he says, "Tomorrow shall be the festival of the Lord." And if we just open up here, you can see Rashi has this wonderful interpretation here on what it is that Aaron sees. So if we look over here in the corner, it says, "And when Aaron saw that there was the breath of life in it," the breath of life was in the golden calf itself. So it says here that when Aaron saw the breath of life in the golden calf itself, in other words, when he saw it move, the rabbis say, when he saw it graze, he realized that Satan's work had succeeded and that he had no argument that he could put forth that would put the people entirely off from this golden calf. Now, Rabbi Lamb of blessed memory gives us a wonderful insight into this verse. Here's what Rabbi Lamb writes. So when we talk about what Aaron saw, this idea of Aaron seeing the golden calf being infused with the breath of life, grazing in the pasture, what did our rabbis mean by that? Rabbi Lamb asks. He writes, they offer, I believe, a profound comment on the nature of idolatry. They mean to outline for us three stages in anyone's encounter with avodah zarah, with false practice. He says the first stage, when we're confronted with something that appears out of sort, is revulsion. We can want to run away from it. We can just view it as something that we don't want to have anything to do with. An idol is immediately repulsive. But then he says there's a second stage. And it's when we become accustomed to it. So initially, when someone brought an idol into our home or wherever, we might hate it, but eventually we get used to it. We become comfortable with the totem, and we realize we kind of do like having it around. And furthermore, perhaps it's not even as absurd as we originally thought, and maybe that little totem does something for us psychologically. So it has meaning to us. And what Rabbi Lamb says, we shouldn't stop at this stage of development, because there's a further stage, which is that even though we get to this appreciation of the idol, we become aware of what he calls ugliness and danger, but what I'd like to call the unintended consequences of bringing these idols into our homes. And for me, when I think about doing this, right, doing these take-home Torahs, it's been a year since we've been together in synagogue. It's wild to think about the fact that it's been a year. I think I've had to figure out how to do this. I've paused already twice in this video to try to make it work so I didn't have to keep redoing it. Plus, I also don't get to see you. So it's hard for me to communicate with you when I don't get to see you. And so I think when we first went into this mode of shelter in place or new reality with our synagogue, my first reaction was, oh, what? It's not the same. It's got this technology, sort of like Rabbi Lamb mentions. When you see something that you don't like, you sort of might be a little bit hesitant to adopt to it. But then I think a lot of us have gotten into that second stage over this past year. We found that our technology really does work in this moment. And I think I've grown a lot of appreciation for Aaron, because Aaron is approached in a time of uncertainty, and he is attempting to use really his goodwill towards people to bring everyone together, and to soften the blow of Moses being absent, and to try to hold the community together with whatever tools he has at his hands. I think it's really easy to criticize Aaron, and yet when here we are without being able to use our synagogue or our shul tools, I think Aaron using what he can to keep people together is a sympathetic figure. But I think now that we are 1 year into this COVID era of ours, I think we're beginning to slip into the third stage, in which is we love that I can give you this take-home Torah. We really value the conversations that we're having online 6 days out of the week. We're studying Torah together. We're having meaningful conversations. We're gathering. We're singing. And a year in, I'm finding that people are beginning to appreciate some of the unintended consequences of the fact that we're not able to get together, and the fact that this sort of medium does not fully account for, I guess, some sort of flesh and blood connection that we're looking for. So that is my connection between the golden calf and the red calf. So the golden calf is this beautiful, shiny object that ultimately doesn't have any life in it. And Rashi tells us that Aaron gets worried once he has the perception that there has life there. Once something that is gold and inanimate begins to look like it moves, is when he gets concerned and says, tomorrow we have to have a Chag Ladonai, even though the Chag Ladonai goes awry. He has this impulse to pull back on it. And I think that's where the red calf comes in, which is sort of the understanding that this calf is a substitute for us. It's an offering that we give that represents our flesh, our blood, our livelihood that flows inside of us. And we want to be cleansed with a reminder that we are human and that we are connected to each other. So there is a lot to discuss here in this Torah portion, but I just wanted to pause here, not to focus in on the sin of the golden calf or the sin of Aaron or the sin of even the Israelites who just felt alone. I mean, they'd been taken out into the wilderness. One can only imagine being in the middle of the wilderness without your leader, the anxiety that they must have been feeling. So I think we can have some appreciation for that. And at the same time, have appreciation for Aaron, who sees, maybe we're going to lose something here if we don't begin to get back to the worship of the Lord. And so I am actively, with the decreasing numbers of COVID, looking to begin to have us return to our synagogue. I know a lot of people are looking to return to synagogue. We want to make sure that we protect life above everything else, while also being understanding that what is the heart, the pumping heart of our tradition, the blood, is being together in person. And so hopefully we will get back to that soon. So as we approach our liberation, as it is Shabbat Parah, as we begin to think of the offerings and the lifeblood that is in all of us and that comes from God, I look forward to hopefully seeing you all very soon in person, and wishing you an opportunity to participate in the Take Home Torah and have a Shabbat Shalom as we look ahead to our liberation and to Passover, which is just around the corner. Shabbat Shalom.